Fine, let me know when I can get started. Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us wherever you're joining us from. You're welcome to this presentation, a YPCA webinar on mastering self-presentation, resume writing, and networking. We have our resource person here, Miss Ochiko Dasimaka. But just before we get started, I would like to welcome every one of us. And if you could, I would share a different screen right now so you could let us know where in the world you were joining us from. Let us know where in the world you're joining us from. If you have your phone, you could easily just go to menti.com, menti.com, and use the code. It's going to ask you for a participation code. Use the code 32686131. And then you're going to be able to type on the screen where in the world you are joining us from. Please, let's take a minute to do that. I would like to properly welcome as many of us as are joining from different parts of the world. I know we might have folks from the US and maybe Europe for some of our students that are there as well who are able to join now, and Nigeria as well. So if you're able to, please go to menti.com, menti.com, and use the code as shown on the screen and enter in your details where you were joining us from. Okay. See, we have folks in Central Time region, Chicago. There's the US is not very specific. Houston, Indiana. Thank you, Faidat. Houston, Indiana. Well, thanks, everyone. As many of you are able to go on there. Okay, we have someone from Europe, from France. That's amazing. Thank you for joining us. Abuja, Nigeria, as well in the chats. So, if you can as well, please try to rename yourself so that way we can address you appropriately. So I don't have to say iPhone. I can know your name whenever we try to call on you to do something or to speak during the meeting. And with that said, I'm just going to go ahead into the very next thing that we do have for today. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation. I'll go on into the rest of the presentation because as this is ISI, the YPCA committee, and the YPCA stands for the Young Professionals and Career Advancement Committee. But ISI, which is the mother body that is what the YPCA is a part of, we have one our founder here today and our president, Mr. Victor Ogumola, and I'll be inviting him up to tell us a brief about ISI, what we stand for, and what we are overall trying to do in the very fabric of the world that we're in today. Mr. Victor, you have the floor, sir.
Oh, thank you, Mayakon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are currently located on the globe. So I greet all of you. And on behalf of the leadership team, we want to say thanks for joining. So I think my assignment here is very simple. Once again, Victor Mola. And I will start by thanking our YPCA team, that's the Young Professional Career Advancement, as led by Dr. Lalade, being ably supported by Mayokun. And of course, Mrs. Olujobi is our BOT rep on that committee. So this has been a very consistent and a recurring event. They do at least one of these every quarter. And the impact has been very, very great based on based on the feedback, what we can see as evidence of their impact on the community that we serve. So who is ISI? And what do we really do? ISI is iScholar Initiative. So iScholar Initiative is a not-for-profit organization established in 2019 and completely run by volunteers. Everyone that is working in ISI trying to make the difference in the life of our teeming youth. They get paid nothing other than the the gratitude other than the seeing others being successful. So it's a pro bono kind of service, but our passion, our sense of fulfillment is pretty much driven by seeing every single person being successful that has come to this program. So what do we really do? There are several brilliant and very ambitious African students who desire to advance their academic career in the world-class universities. So, and the reason is simple. Most of these scholars, all of them are driven by the simple fact that they want to improve the economic outcome for themselves, their families, and also more importantly, to be a productive contributor to the society, either here in Africa, and of course, we pretty much focus on Africans, particularly Nigerians. So the expectation is at the end of the day, when you build the next generation of leaders, those leaders, they are not just going to be good for themselves and their family, but by extension, they are going to also be an important part of Nigeria in terms of growth and development. So it is our expectation that many dreams that will have otherwise not seen the light of the day, we are making those dreams to see the light of the day. And seeing the light of the day means that to whom much is given, much is required. So we hope and anticipate that in all we do, our graduate who we believe will not just be a piece of talent in the pipeline of talent for economic growth, but they are going to be a major player when it comes to the growth and development in Africa and Nigeria in particular. So that is what is driving us to do all this. And over the years, like I mentioned, we started this back in 2019 with the passion, with the commitment of all of us. We've been able to sponsor 355 direct scholars. When I talk about sponsorship, it is in terms of helping students to pay for their standardized tests, pay for their application fees, helping them with other things. And of course, we have end-to-end mentorship programs. And I will talk a little bit about that in a moment. But all we've been doing, we've been able to impart at least direct 355 students. And it is still counting. This year, we are going to be sponsoring another 100 candidates. Scholars, we are bringing them on board in the next couple of months. We are in the middle of the selection process right now. But what does all this mean? People who don't just think about themselves, people who continue to invest their time, their resources, they've chosen to invest in these folks in a way that at the end of the day, they will not just be good for themselves, but also for the society. So on that note, it is also important to remind ourselves, particularly our young, the younger generation, the scholars, that the only way we can grow, the only way we can remain sustainable, or we can sustain this organization in particular, is for each and every one of us to be our brother's keeper. We want to look back in our own little way. What is it that I can do for the next person in order to also achieve their own dream? So it is a call to duty for each and every one of us. So without much ado, today's topic cannot have come in the right time, because I can tell you the most basic requirement for any job is your certificate. So, and everybody has it, a lot of first class. a lot of distinctions. So that is probably the first gate that you have to cross that will enable you to be shortlisted for any job, for example. But for you to be successful, for you at the interview and beyond the interview, you need the things that they will not teach you in a conventional classes. Your ability to differentiate yourself would be driven more by how much of the soft skills that you have. And I think talking about resume writing, talking about how you can ace in job interviews, and even beyond that, how you can network so productively in order to leverage on every available opportunity. I think these are the things, even when you are reading them in the textbooks, they are not as effective as somebody who has the personal experience, who has the personal knowledge, sharing it with you. So this is a rare opportunity. And once again, I want to appreciate the YPC, and I appreciate our presenter today, whom I believe will be introduced properly shortly. So I want to thank you for your time. And if I were you, I have my own notebook and pen, even though I'm not job searching right now, but I know there are a lot of things that I will want to learn from today's presentation. So, and I look forward to it. Once again, on behalf of the leadership team, I want to say thank you for joining today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And again, I'm getting back into the meeting. We've just gone through the welcome and the opening and brief about ISI. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker shortly. Again, we're going to be discussing resume writing and networking. But just before I do that, Mr. Shiko, I thought to do a primer on people on the call and kind of get your thoughts on their dream jobs, because going through your profile and what you have to offer, I think there's a lot of value to glean from there and for people to write. I also have my notes out ready to take as much notes as possible. And so I wanted to be able to get to ask people. And so folks on the call, we are going to do this again, back to the same Mentimeter that I had just shared with you. And I want to just be able to gauge your thoughts on your comfortability with networking. Please let me know if you can see my slide. So please, again, go to menti.com. It's still the same one that you were using earlier. And I want you to now answer this question. How comfortable do you feel with networking? Are you very comfortable and you are a networking pro? Are you somewhat comfortable and you can hold your own? Or are you someone who's a little uncomfortable and still figuring it out? Finally, are you just not at all comfortable and networking is just very, very, very intimidating? I want to be able to gauge our thoughts. Right now, there's over 30 of us. I cannot tell. Yeah, I think, yeah, there's over 30 of us on this call. So at least want to get about 20% engagement on this one. I see 6-7 answers on. So very comfortable. We have some networking pro. I believe, Mr. Chuku, you're probably one of the networking pros who have entered in your answer already as regards that. So maybe that doesn't count. But for the rest of us on the call, let me hear from you. What's how comfortable do you feel with networking? I'll take 1 or 2 more answers, and then I would ask one final question, because again, when you see the profile of Miss Ochiko as I read it to you over the next couple of minutes, you'll see that one of the things that she does key is not just to help you get a job, but to help you get a job that you would like to do. And I think that's very vital. So I would have one additional question as well on the kind of job you would like. So yes, I'll take that one. So I see it's we have some very comfortable people, about 3 folks who are very comfortable, somewhat comfortable. It's pretty much in the middle, somewhat comfortable, a little uncomfortable. And so what I'm hoping for and what I want you to be able to do in this meeting and take away is this. I have a goal to say, when I leave this meeting, I'll be better than what level I currently am at. I don't know how you can be better than very comfortable, but you can be better than somewhat comfortable. You can go to the next level, the next layer as regards to comfortability with networking and also leveraging those skills to get the opportunity you would like to get. One final question. Again, it's going to pop up on your screen. What is your dream job or career goal? What is your dream job or career goal? Is it to be a minister of education? Is it to be the minister of energy for a country? Is it to you could type in a word response, you could type in a single answer. What is your dream job? What is that one job that you would absolutely love to do, even if it is for free? What is your dream job? Research scientist. That's an interesting one. Research scientist. Any other inputs on that one before we get into the main item for today? I'll take a couple more answers before we go into the next hour of exploration manager. That's an interesting one as well. I want to believe the exploration manager probably in the energy industry for the oil and gas, particularly AI engineer. That's also been something that has come to be a mainstay for a long time now. Research and development engineer. That's very, very specific. CO2 geomechanics. That's very specific. Okay. Okay, so without further ado, and I would love to go into the next. And again, the reason we're all here, going straight up into it, I'm going to be introducing our guest speaker. And Miss Ochiko Dasimaka was on the Forbes HR Council and a Forbes contributor for over 6 years. She's a highly accomplished global human resources leader with over 16 years of experience in energy, manufacturing, technology, and retail industries. She has spent her career working for Fortune 500 global companies such as Shell, Amazon, Unilever, and Rio Tinto. Nectar named Ochiko as one of the top 24 HR leaders to follow in 2024. She is a certified professional resume writer, Society of Human Resources Management Senior Certified Professional, and she is a certified employment interview professional. She has a bachelor's degree in political science with an honors in English language. She also has a master's degree in business administration with a human resources concentration. Now, during her studies, she won 12 scholarships and graduated from both universities with first-class degrees, summa cum laude. Ochiko is passionate about helping people get their dream jobs faster by providing the right coaching, tools, and resources. She's the CEO of Career Heights Consulting Incorporated, and our company was on the Houston Business Hall of Fame in 2021 and 2022 for HR consulting. Influence Digest named Ochiko as one of the top 15 LinkedIn experts in Houston. She has helped over 3,000 clients globally to secure their dream job. Ochiko is happily married with 3 lovely children, and she loves to read, write, sing, and travel to exotic places. And while I would like to pick on traveling to exotic places, I think I have a very vested interest in finding out how we can land our dream jobs today. So everyone, without much further ado, please give a virtual clap, a virtual round of applause to Miss Ochiko Dasimaka. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I really, really appreciate being here today. When I was approached about this opportunity, it really aligns with what I love to do, right? It's my passion, right? Aside from it being my career, my business, it's also something I really love to do, helping people, to get their dream jobs, making sure that they feel satisfied in the career they've chosen, but also make sure that, they can achieve their dreams, right? Achieve their goals in life. And, it really makes me fulfilled to do that. So yeah, so thank you again, and welcome from everywhere around the world. It's a pleasure. It's good to see, that we are a very diverse group. I saw Chicago, obviously, I'm sure that's me. I saw Indiana and different places. So thank you. And I want to appreciate Tunde, who reached out to me. I appreciate the presenter as well, and Mayokun, right? Yeah, Mayokun. Yes, thank you very much.
That is correct, yes.
And, yes, so thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who is here as well. So hold on, let me share my screen and you just let me know if you can see it. And as I share my screen, I just want you to know that, look, I'm going to share a couple of slides, but this is going to be a very interactive session. I like to make sure that, we're communicating, right? And I will leave a lot of time for questions at the end.
It's coming up now.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, I can see it, yes.
Good. Okay, so the purpose
Can I say something? Can we say that people start putting their questions in the chat box?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to put that in the chat.
Okay. Good. Okay. So yeah, so we're here to talk about the topic was mastering self-presentation, right? But I like to kind of think about it in terms of building your personal brand, because building your personal brand is really the summary of what we're talking about, right? Because when you build your personal brand, it actually helps you in terms of your career and your business growth as well, right? So we're going to focus today on resume writing and networking, because those two are really key if you really want to get the dream jobs that you talked about. And I saw a lot of, dream jobs that you have. So obviously you're a great group of professionals, of students, and you really have big dreams and goals. So hopefully this can help you to achieve that as well. So I'll go to the next slide. Let me share the screen. Yeah, okay, it's in slideshow mode now. So the agenda, like I said, is how to write a resume that gets you job interviews, because it's not just to write a resume, right? You can have a resume, you can have a CV, but if it doesn't get you interviews, then it's quite useless, in my opinion, right? And then the second is how to network as well. So here are some tips. These are tips, and I can, deep dive into them when we go into Q&A as well. But one of the first things I need us to really think about in terms of the resume is that the resume is your marketing and branding document. It's really important because the resume is the first thing that employers see, or recruiters and hiring managers see before they even see you, right? And that's however you present yourself on your resume is going to determine whether or not they actually call you for the interview. So it's very important to think about it in that way. It's a marketing document. You're marketing yourself and the value that you can bring as well. And then the second point is you want to make sure that, obviously your name is on your resume, your basic contact details. You might think that this is, intuitive, but it's really not, because I've seen resumes with no names, right? I've seen resumes with no email addresses, no phone numbers, things like that. So just be very sure, right, that your resume, in terms of, the key things, how to be contacted is, on your resume. The next part is write a compelling professional summary. And so the first part of your resume, the first half of your resume is more like the best part of your resume, because typically recruiters spend 6 to 10 seconds looking at a resume, right? So if the first part is not compelling enough, they may not even bother with the rest. So you want to make sure that the first part is really compelling and attractive. And so what I mean by, the summary is more like, who are you in terms of, your profession and all of that? What value do you bring to companies? How can you add value to that employer? That really needs to be very clear in the beginning part of your resume. And the other one is core competencies and skills. So make sure that your resume has the right skills and the right competencies for your target job. So you have to first of all think to say, okay, what is the job I'm going for right now, right? What is the job I'm applying for as at today? And then think about what are the skills that are necessary for the job. And then you put those skills on your resume. Obviously, you don't want to put skills that you don't have, right? So, but if you have, a certain level of awareness of those skills, you've worked with those skills, like you have some confidence about how you show those skills, then you can put that on your resume, because it's really important for you to be able to get interviews. And then the next part is showcase your professional achievements. When I say achievement, people always think, oh, awards or, something big, right? They say, hey, Ochiko, I have no awards. I just do my job. I don't really know what you mean by achievements, right? So it's really whatever you're doing, you're going to work every day, right? You're showing up every day. So I always say, look, in order to know exactly what your achievements are, ask yourself, if I didn't come to work today, what could happen? What could go wrong? If I didn't show up today or for the next 1 week and they couldn't find somebody else quickly, what could go wrong? Then that would help you to better understand exactly what your achievements are, right? So do you help the company to make money in a way? Do you help the company to save money? Do you improve processes as part of your job? Do you, for instance, if you're in the hospitality space, right? Do you make people feel welcome? What are the things you do every single day that makes a difference in your current company or in the previous companies you work for. That's what your achievement is. And normally when you're writing achievements, you want to think about it in terms of the problem, action, result format. And what I mean by that is, what problem were you trying to solve? What action did you take? What kind of results did you get? So PAR, problem, action, result. Other people use the STAR format as well, which is quite similar. The STAR format is pretty much situation, task, action, result. Then the next one is showcase your academic achievements. So if you've gotten a high GPA or you've won some scholarships and awards, feel free to put that on your resume as well. Then highlight your professional affiliations. So if if you belong to any associations and all of that, it's important to put them on your resume. And let's say you have, a lot of them, then I would say focus on the ones that are most relevant for that job. So perhaps not every association you belong to needs to be on your resume. It just has to be tailored to the specific job that you're applying for. Then the other one is awards and publications. So let's say, you write in an article, you write articles, or you do something else. Let's say you're a PhD student and you've done some dissertations, whatever it is you've done in terms of publications, you can put that on your resume too, and awards as well. And make sure that it's professional and it has a consistent format. Calibri is one that lots of people use. Times New Roman as well is another one. So there are a couple of fonts in terms of Microsoft Word that is quite appropriate for a resume. And then update and adapt your resume to fit the job that you want. I always say a generic resume is not going to get you an interview. I have a lot of clients that say, hey, Ochiko, I've been applying for this, for this role, and it's been 3 months, I have no interview and all of that. Then I look at the resume and it's like, everything is on the resume, right? Every single thing they've done in their entire life is on the resume. And so your resume is not your biography, right? It's a marketing and branding document. So the resume needs to have the specific roles, experiences, skills that is tailored to that job. So you need to, make a very strategic decision as to what to show on your resume. And then the other part is the applicant tracking system. By show of hands, does anybody know what the applicant tracking system is? Okay. Anybody else? I can't really see the screen. Okay, so Andrew knows as well. That's good. That's good. So Augustine knows? Okay, great. So can someone tell me what is the applicant tracking system? Can someone explain it? What I mean by ATS, or applicant tracking system?
I can take it, but I need to just put it in the chat.
Okay. Sorry, can you read what he's saying? Because I can't see.
So Anil said it's an AI tool to shift through a bunch of resumes.
Okay, yeah, that's close. That's close. Yeah, so the applicant tracking system, yes, is a tool, is a software. And they have so many versions. In the US alone, they have about 50 different versions of applicant tracking systems. It's essentially a recruitment tool, software, HR tool. Workday is one of those types of tools. Like there are different tools like that. There's Talio and different names, but they essentially do the same thing. Meaning it makes my life easier. Like, the life of a HR person easier, the life of a hiring manager easier by making sure that we can post a job that we're looking for. We post the job ad, and then we put, some keywords or some key skills that we're looking for. And then the system, will begin to collect the resumes as people submit and all of that. And it will help to kind of do a matching to say, okay, these are the resumes that are in this database that actually align with the job that, with the kind of talent you're looking for or the kind of person you're looking for. So, a company like Google, for instance, gets about 1,000 applicants per job. That's a lot of resumes, and no HR person or hiring manager is going to say, oh, I'm going to read all those resumes. We're not going to do that. And nobody does that, right? It's a big time waster, unfortunately. But if your resume has the right keywords, the right phrases, the right format, you are most likely going to get the interview. So it's important to make sure that you have the right skills, the right format, in order to be able to be seen by the applicant tracking system. And we can talk about that more as well. And I also want to say it's better to use the Microsoft Word version when you're submitting your resume than the PDF, because most applicant tracking systems are not updated to the point where they can read PDFs. So that's very important to, note as well. So we'll go into networking briefly, and then we'll have a lot of time for Q&A. So networking, right? Expanding your network. This is really important as well. And there's so many ways to do this now. So many ways, with technology and all of that, we're in the era of working virtually and everything, right? So it's not every time you have to network in person. You can actually network virtually as well and get great results. So networking tips, right? So preparation is key when you're networking. You need to have more of an elevator pitch. How do you introduce yourself to people? Like, what do you say? How do you strike that conversation? The elevator pitch is important on your resume and also important when you're networking as well. So it could be just a couple of lines in terms of who you are as a professional, what value you bring. Those things are really important. Like for me, for instance, just if I wanted to kind of do a quick elevator pitch, I would say something like, hi, my name is Achuko. I'm a global HR leader who really, my passions are making sure that I can understand employees in terms of their needs and the business as well, and make sure that I can create the right HR solutions that not only boost employee engagement, but business productivity. So that's just an example, but like you have to have, an essence of what exactly is the value you bring as a professional. It could be two things that you do, right? Is it, making money for companies? Is it simplifying processes? Is it improving processes? Is it saving money? So what value you bring. You can think about 2 or 3 things that you do and make that your elevator pitch. And then you want to set your goals and objectives as well. What are you trying to do in terms of networking? Are you just trying to make friends, or are you trying to actually leverage that to get a job, right? Or to build your network, or to, just build your brand as well. And you want to research too, right? What are the right, events, activities to be able to network. And then you want to attend events and engage as well. So there are different events that happen in terms of like career fairs or association type meetings and things like that. LinkedIn has a lot of events that happen, right? There's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's so many events everywhere. So you want to connect to see, which ones are relevant for what you're looking for. And then you want to be present and approachable and listen actively and share your experiences as well. I just want to say, one tip, because I see a lot of people make mistakes like this, right? So for instance, if you're going to a career fair or a job fair, there's so many people, right? Or a conference, for instance, make sure that you're taking people's complimentary cards or contact information, like their email addresses or their phone numbers and all of that, because they may see hundreds of people that day and they may not remember who you are or anything like that. So you can have a conversation, but then if you don't follow up after to say, hey, my name is James or John, we met, on so day, and you can lose that connection. So make sure at least you have the right contact information of whoever you want to connect with later, and then, go back and connect with them. And then, so like I said, follow up, right? Follow up is really key. So you want to follow up after that meeting or career fair or job fair or conference. Send a thank you note, connect with them on LinkedIn. Just schedule some kind of regular check-in as well. And like I said, collect their contact information. Don't forget to do that. And then leverage social media. So there are so many social media platforms right now, right? But the one I've seen that has really worked for professionals who are looking for jobs is LinkedIn. Facebook, yes, there are a couple of groups there and things like that, but the one I know that has worked for sure in terms of building a brand and building a strong presence online is LinkedIn. It's almost like an online resume now. And there's so many people on LinkedIn looking for people like you every single day. They're hiring managers, they're recruiters whose job is just to sit on LinkedIn and look for people, right, for employers. So you have to have a very strong LinkedIn profile. And then you want to engage in relevant groups. In LinkedIn, you can join, I believe, up to 50 groups or so, right? So that's a lot of groups you can join without having, a limit. So you want to join groups that are really relevant to your field. Like, for example, if you're a project manager, go to LinkedIn and go to the search bar on LinkedIn and type in the word project manager, and then you would see different options. LinkedIn would say something like groups, people, choose groups so that LinkedIn knows, okay, you're looking for groups that are for project managers, and then join a couple of them, because that helps you to get visibility. That helps you to know other people who are in similar profession as you. And you never know, that could actually be a way for you to have the right visibility to get the job you're looking for. And then share valuable content. So you can have an amazing LinkedIn profile and you wouldn't get any value out of that because you're not using it to do anything, right? So LinkedIn rewards people for activity. So the more activity you have on LinkedIn, the more visible you are. And all you have to do is just 5-6 minutes a day. That's all you need to do on LinkedIn, or that's enough time on LinkedIn to spend to actually get more visible or become more visible. So for instance, you can share a post, right, that is relevant to your field. You can share a post, you can make a comment on the group, you can ask questions, you can answer questions, you can share something just to show that, that you understand, your career or something that is related to your area of expertise, right? Or you can just repost something. It doesn't have to be your idea or, that you came up with. It could just be something you saw, an article you read somewhere that makes sense to share. You share that. If you do that 5 minutes a day for the next 1 month, you'll begin to increase your network on LinkedIn. You begin to get more visible to recruiters and hiring managers, and you might even get contacts from recruiters to say, hey, do you want to, to discuss about this job opportunity? It happens a lot. So it's very important to also do that as well. Be active on LinkedIn, because the more active you are, the more visible you are. And then be authentic and build relationships. So be yourself. So you don't have to fake it, right? You just be yourself, be authentic, and really focus on building relationships. So it's not just about them helping you get the job. It's about really genuinely getting to know them, and them, whoever the person is, getting to know you. Be helpful, be supportive as well. Right? So it's better when it's more like a mutual type of relationship where you can help them, they can help you, and vice versa. But if you're not even in a position to help the person, at least, it should not be about just getting the job. That's my point there. And then diversify your network. Seek diverse perspective and engage with individuals from different backgrounds and industry. And so this part is important as well. And one advice I typically give to my clients is, let's say you are in oil and gas, for instance. You're in oil and gas, you work for Shell, as an example, and you are looking to maybe make a switch to like the tech industry. And maybe you want to work for Google or Facebook or Apple or any of those big tech companies. And your network right now will be filled with mostly oil and gas professionals, right? Or people that you've worked, are in your company and all of that. So you need to, when building your LinkedIn or your network, think about where you want to be in the future and start reaching out to people who are already where you want to be. So in this case, you'll be looking for people who work in Google or Apple or Facebook and connecting with them on LinkedIn. People who are in a similar, job as you, doing the same career, or people who are mostly HR managers, recruiters in those companies, and people who might be your manager or boss if you do get that job. So that's how you should think about it. So think about your future in mind and then build your network that way. So, well, that's the end of my presentation. It went quite fast, but I just really want to spend more time discussing with you and just answering any questions you have. So these are my contact details as well if you want to have my information, but I'm sure we'll share the slides after anyway. So I'll pause here and let Maya could take over from here.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chico. There's been so much you have embellished in such a short time. I think we had about half an hour, and that was about 25 minutes of solid content. And so we've read a whole lot. The last thing you said about think about your future in mind and build your network that way. I think that's an absolutely, it resonates with me so much, and I'm probably sure it does with a lot of people on the call. We will take questions now. Someone did put a question in the chat. I would reframe that question and ask you, but I'm going to go ahead right now and make people able to unmute themselves. Please, this is what I ask. Please raise your hand and let me know you have questions. If you raise your hand, just use the raise hand icon on Zoom, and that way I can check in with you on what questions you have. I see Tolu, she has raised and I will check with you shortly. But please raise your hand. I will see it in that order, and then we would be able to take questions. Mr. Chuko, I wanted to check in with you on one thing. Are you also familiar with CVs? I'm asking this from my background coming from Nigeria. We used to have CVs, and I know there are some folks who have joined us from France, some folks who have joined us from Nigeria. I do not know if what difference exists in that. Is there a need to like differentiate, or is the goal still the same when talking about resume and CV?
Yeah, so for me, the CV is more like a longer version, right? It's, curriculum vitae and all of that, right? It's a longer, for countries where they use CVs, it's more like, in Nigeria, for instance, I would see people put like, their gender, right, or something, or their, their religion and stuff like that, where they, so a bit more personal details and then more information, right, in terms of publications, events they've done, like all kinds of stuff. So it's a longer version of a resume. And a CV too, I've seen it being used a lot in the academic space. So professors and all of that, where you have more liberty to write. So CVs could be 3-4 pages. You have more length to kind of put more information there. So I see more of like awards, trainings, all kinds of stuff, right? So just more details, more information. And then the resume is more of a concise version. It's a smaller, concise version. And in the US, for instance, you don't put your gender on your CV. You don't need to do that. And you don't put your references on your CV because they would ask you for references anyway. But like in Nigeria or other countries, they may say, oh, here are my references. So you put your references on your CV, right? So it depends on the country, right? But depending on the job as well, some jobs may require CVs, other jobs may require resumes. But resume is just shorter. It's a bit more concise and it has less personal type details as well.
Understood. Thank you for speaking to that. And one of the things I think you kind of touched on is just be very clear on the fact that it's your best marketing tool, and you put what helps you to sell yourself the very best way on that document. So that's a good one.
Yes.
Andrew did have a question. He asked it earlier, and he's kind of published it again today. In Nigeria, we do have a thing where you do like a national youth service completion, and he's asking, is it relevant to put that experience on his resume or CV? Or whatever opportunities.
Oh yeah, it's relevant. Yeah, it's relevant, right? And especially if you're going for your first job, right? And you don't have lots of experience and you're a fresh graduate, for instance, right? So the NYSC, the youth service is 1 year of solid experience in something. Hopefully it aligns with the job that you're going for, but even if it doesn't, it just show work experience. So it's important to put that. And let's say, you didn't do your NYSC or haven't done that, and you're going for a job in the US, for instance, and all of that. You can go back to what courses did you take in school, right? What trainings did you do while you were in school? What teamwork did you do? Did you lead projects in school and all of that? Did you do volunteer work? Anything you've done that could be seen as a project or a group work or something you led, or let's say you were the head of the associations in school, you want to put all of that there because that will show that you have the ability to, to do the job. Well, it's more like ability and potential as well, right? And it shows you have some transferable skills that might be applicable to the job you're going for as well.
Understood. Well, Andrew, I hope you got an answer to your question. Please, if you have any more questions after that, you can go ahead and put your NYSC completion as applicable on your resume or your CV. Please ask that further on the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask your question. I'll pivot right now to Tolu Alashe. Tolu, would you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, so thank you very much for the opportunity and thanks for the presentation. It was a good one.
You're welcome.
So my question is, as a PhD student, after you finish your PhD, I want to transition to the industry. What will be your advice for someone like that? Because number one, you don't want to come in as a fresh graduate based on the fact that you have a higher certification, right? So what are the things you think someone can leverage on to stand a better chance after finishing your PhD, transitioning to the industry?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. What job would you be going for instance? Because that will determine what your approach is going to be.
Yeah, if you want to go into the mining industry, mineral processing, based on what you're doing currently in your research.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So if that's the case, right, and it's in the mining industry, then a PhD will be relevant, right? For that, let's say you're doing something like in the R&D department, for instance, or you're, maybe you're working in like a technical marketing space and all of that, right? Those types of companies will seek people that have PhDs, right? So, in that case, the PhD will be relevant, and you want to still do a resume if it's in the US or North America or Canada, right? But you do want to put, all the things you've done while you were doing your PhD, right? Like publications and all of that, right? So you want to be a bit more detailed in terms of like the body of work and the research you've done so far as it applies to the, the different, the job that you're going for as well. But, for instance, if it's not a job where a PhD is relevant, you might want to think about, do I need to put my PhD on my resume or not? It's a very interesting thing because there are some jobs that you apply to where a PhD is not even necessary or relevant, that once they see a PhD, it could actually disqualify you from that job because they may think you're overqualified. So you need to, keep that in mind as well and make sure that it's relevant for the job you're going for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Toluwashe, did that answer your question? But do you have any further question as regards if you are
Yeah, not
found
for
a job
now.
that's
Okay. Yeah, not for now. If I think of any, I would ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
based on your background, Tolu, you should definitely, your PhD is quite relevant for the field you're going for, right?
Yeah. So the thing there is, I already have a background, right? And I have like a year or two experience when I finished my master's. But right now, I'm doing my PhD and also intend to transition to the industry. So the question is, what I'm doing right now, how can it help me to put me in a better position when I'm applying for a job after finishing the PhD? But I guess you answered, you gave some tips that I can apply to my current situation that will help eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, look, your job, whatever you're doing right now is already setting you up for success in whatever job you're going for. So I don't see any blockers. It just really depends on how you present yourself on your resume, right? Or your CV. It's about the presentation of your body of work, your experience you've had so far, what you're currently doing, the research you've done, or any value derived from that, and how you clearly articulate that on your resume or CV to get the job. And if, from the way you're sounding, I have no doubt that you can do well in an interview as well. Well, we can always connect after this, right? If you want to kind of deep dive into that, and we can still and we can talk specifics as well.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Oh yes, yeah, you can connect with me as well. Just type in
Ochiko name,
Dasimaka.
right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Tolu. Mr. Juko, we do have a next question. This question is from Joshua. This question is, since the resume is your best marketing tool, how would you structure that resume or the CV in whatever case for a research role versus an industrial or clinical role? Would you include both your research experience in both cases, or which one would you amplify more depending on whether you are trying to go in the industry, a clinical role, or for a research role?
Yeah. So if you're doing a research, if it's a research role, then you want to emphasize more on the research work you've done. Pretty simple. If it's the other one, the clinical, then you want to emphasize more of the clinical. So it depends on the job itself. So whatever, and the cheat sheet is always the job description, meaning you look at the job posting that the employer has posted. That's your cheat sheet, right? So they tell you exactly, they describe the job, what the person would do. They talk about the key requirements and key qualifications. They even list some skills that are necessary for the job. So your assignment is to then look and see, okay, So what do I have and what have I done that can match what they're looking for? And then make sure that you are putting on your resume those things that are really relevant based on what the job description has told you, right? And that's how you can get the interview. So always refer back to the JD or the job description to know exactly what is relevant for your resume. Hope that was helpful.
Yes, Joshua. So please let us know if that was helpful. If you have any additional questions, but again, that was a good answer. I just make sure you are addressing what is needed in the job for whatever it is you're submitting to that job.
Yes.
Next question, and I'm going to make this a two-pronged question because we have a next question from Okike James. And I guess the first part of the question that I would like to see as a precursor to this question is, in the US, we always hear things like your resume should be a single pager. I'm not quite sure where that has come from, but I know it was something I leveraged as well coming up the ranks in the United States. But what are your thoughts on that? Should your resume be a single pager? If it should be, why should that be the case? And then I will take James' question.
Okay. And give me 1 minute. Yeah, if there's time, I might share a couple of resume samples with the group as well, so that you can kind of see what it looks like.
Yes.
It's going to be
matter
PDF.
of fact, that was James's question. His question was, can we see a sample of how a resume should look like?
Yes. I can definitely show you one or two samples and maybe share as well with the group too.
Okay.
So yeah, look, I'm not party to the school of thought that a resume has to be one page. No, I'm not. Right? Because the one pager resume can really be a disservice to you and the value that you can provide. If you have no experience whatsoever and you're just a fresh graduate, then it would make sense to have a one-page resume, right? Because all you can put there is, your summary in terms of who you are, your contact details, your education, and that's pretty much it, right? There's nothing else to put there. So it makes sense to have one-page resume and maybe focus on your volunteer work or some trainings you've done or things that are transferable. But then if you have experience and you have some really good achievements that you want to highlight, then my advice would be to have a 2-page resume. My own practice is to do 2 to 3 pages maximum. My resume is 3 pages, and that's okay, right? Because I've worked for a while and all of that, and there are some experiences that I don't typically want to remove because I feel they're relevant for my field as a HR person. But I also use a 2-page resume as well. So it just depends, right? 2 to 3 pages is my goal. The sweet spot is 2 pages because you want to focus on experience that is mostly relevant for the job. And again, if you have many years of experience, let's say you've worked for 20 years, or more, then you want to really ask yourself, which is more relevant as of today, right? So if you're going for a manager role or senior manager role or director role, whatever internship you did 20 years ago is not relevant anymore, right? So you want to focus on what's most relevant for the job and that season. So typically in the US, we do 15 years. So, the last 15 years is good enough. And then the rest, you can kind of just reference it on your resume as well. Hope that was helpful.
It does help because you spoke to the volume of experience. Like let that be on your resume, and if you need 2 pages or a bit more than that, then by all means use it. I guess for context again as well, for early career professionals, master's graduates, bachelor's graduates, would you, if you were reviewing a CV, for example, so 2 pages is a sweet spot, you wouldn't penalize them for going
2 pages is a sweet spot. It's a sweet spot for somebody who has previous experience before. Right. So I think it was Tolu, right, that said he had worked before and all of that. And
yes.
So if it's someone like him, he needs a 2-page resume, not a 1-page resume, because it seems like he has some experience that would be relevant to show. And why I say 2 to 3 pages is because you are competing with other people who are going to show their body of work and their achievements as well. So for instance, if you do a 1-page resume just because of length and you want to comply with a 1-pager, then somebody else who has the same skills and experience as you was able to show a 2-page resume with more achievements than you, who do you think they will call for the interview? So that's what you have to have in mind.
Thanks for speaking to that as well. And Mr. Chiko, if we get the chance, I know we still have a couple minutes on the Q&A. For the samples you said, I would like to get it, maybe put it in the chat. I would like to get that from you so I can put it in the chat for the question we had earlier about wanting to see a sample. So, but I'll go ahead and take
Yeah.
Femi's question. If should I give you a couple minutes to find a sample, or should we go ahead
No,
with
no,
questions?
yeah, I think might make sense for me to just send it here, right? Or you want me to share my screen? What works for you? Let me see.
If you think we would benefit from maybe you analyzing out this is a good structure,
Okay,
what the profile. So
Yeah.
if you think
Yeah, give me 1 minute. Yeah,
Okay.
give me 1 minute. Let me share.
Okay, thank you. Then Femi, we will get to your question in a minute.
Okay, so let me share this one. And then I will send the other samples to you all. Okay, can you see my screen?
It is. Yes,
no?
yes, it's up now. Yes.
Okay.
We can see.
Okay, so this is more like a standard resume, or more like a reference point for a resume, right? Every resume, would obviously be unique based on the career or the job you're going for and what you want to show personally, but this is more like an example, right, of what I think makes a good resume. So obviously the first thing is your name, right? Your contact information, phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn URL. That's very important. So because the first thing a recruiter would do, or first thing that I would do if I were looking at a resume, I would want to check out their LinkedIn profile. So it just makes it easier if I see it on your resume. I can just click on it and go see, the rest of your history on your LinkedIn. And then you have this part here is more like, I call it it's like a target job, right? Or headline of your resume. So this is somebody who obviously is going for product management roles or a product marketing director role. So that's why this is the headline of his resume, right? He is looking for these types of roles. And that's what I put here on the headline, because this is going to help him when he submits the resume in the applicant tracking system. Because this title is here, if he ever applies for a product marketing director role, he is most likely going to get the interview, because the ATS will pick this up and he might get the interview. And if he didn't include that, so that's very important. And then this part is what I mean by the professional summary, right? So a couple of words here, right, that talks about, who he is, right? This award-winning, dynamic, self-driven, result-focused professional, right? So all of that is a summary of who he is and what value he can bring. And then the next one is, the skills section, right? Or core competencies section. 12 skills that he has that aligns with the job he's going for right now, right? And then you see the career overview, or this part too can be called, experience or work experience, right? And then he works for Dell, right? So obviously the company is there, the location and all of that. He had been working, there for a very long time, right? So so basically we just put the employment timeline. But if you go down, you see that we did not put, or I did not put every single role that he had worked in, that he had done in Dell, because that would be terrible. And, it's going to be a very long resume, right? So this is more like the responsibilities, right? So you put, a small blurb of your responsibilities just to show, okay, what was the general job description? And then you focus mainly on achievements. What did you accomplish while you were in that role? That's the most important part, right? So you see a list of achievements that he had, right? So he got multiple awards, right? In different years, he achieved X, plus what, 5.5% in total client hardware, growth, things like that. And you see the award that he got here in terms of where it says End Field Marketing Manager of the Year in 2016. So all of that is what needs to be shown on your resume. And then you go here and it basically shows the, hold on. Yeah, it shows the other roles that he had as well, right? Similar format, description, achievements, description, achievements. And then you see here, prior positions at Dell. So we're not going to, I'm not going to put every single role he had, because those ones are not relevant right now for what he's going for. And then, he had experience as a military person. So, that's relevant because in the US, we really value veterans and all of that, right? So it makes sense to put that there. And then the, awards that he received as well, and all his degrees and certifications too. So this is an example of what a resume should look like. And, this client has long moved on. He has gotten better jobs and he's doing very good, right? But yeah, this is just an example of what a resume should be. So I'll pause now for questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, James, I hope that answers more than answers your question about what a resume is like, and also the analysis of the different sections and why they're very vital. Femi, are you still with us? Would you go ahead and unmute yourself for your question now?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Ochiko, for the excellent presentation. My question is twofold. The first one is for a young professional or student that meets with somebody who is experienced in the industry and you get their card. How often should you check in before you are considered a nuisance? I know a lot of colleagues that won't give out their business cards to young professionals because they then hound them. So that's one part. And then the other part is for somebody like me who have like too many years of experience in the industry. And if I am on like a panel with, say, MD of Shell or Chevron, how often do I check in with them to say, oh, we were on this panel, how are you doing? Before you also get into that category of, oh, this guy is now a nuisance, and they stop responding to your emails or text messages. What's the sweet spot for those two categories? I know it will be different, but what would be the sweet spot for those two categories? Thank you.
Yeah. Look, the last thing you want to do and be is to be a pest, right? And you don't want to be that or be perceived as that. And why? Because I also get turned off by people, when they keep sending me messages on LinkedIn and talking about, help me get a job, help me get a job, help me get a job. Like, ugh, like, that's a turn off. Okay. What you should focus on is building that relationship. Asking for the job or looking for help can come later, especially if it's someone you met or you just met, right? You want to build some kind of relationship. So, in the instance of like an MD of Shell or something, right? For instance, and you met in the panel and all of that, you can get the information, from he or she, if they are willing to give it to you. But if not, you can connect with them on LinkedIn, right? You can just get their name, find them on LinkedIn and send a message to say, hey, thank you so much for the presentation you made at the panel. I found it so useful because of XYZ. Mention something about the presentation so that it's clear that you were listening to something. Right. And then say, I really like how you talked about, renewable energy, for instance. And I would love to pick your brain about that when you have time, sir. And just ask, so, what, I guess, I think you have a very busy schedule. So I would appreciate if you can find 30 minutes in your calendar, maybe within the next 2 weeks or so, for us to have a conversation. Just that's the way you start that relationship. It doesn't have to be about, oh, can you help me get a job in Shell? That should not be the beginning of your conversation with the person, right? And as you hopefully you have that 30 minutes and you have that conversation, then you can, 1 or 2 more meetings or so, you can then share your aspirations and all of that. And then it's going to lead to where you want it to go eventually, but that shouldn't be what you lead with, right? Does that answer your question or?
Yes, I'm okay. So for like a younger person, how often should you check in with, if I meet a student, I don't want them to send me an email like every other day or every other week.
They shouldn't send you an email every other day, right? There should be an intent to that, right? So if they send, if you send a message and he or she responds and says, yeah, okay, let's have that meeting in, 2 weeks or whatever, then you can say, okay, sure, that's great. So, what day would make sense for you, what time? Then you get their email and you book that meeting so that at least you actually have something on your calendar. But let's say you send the message and they don't respond. You wait for like a week and then say, hey, I'm just, following up again just to see if you saw my message. Wait and see if they respond. If you do that once or twice and they don't respond, then let it go, move on. You don't have to continue doing that.
Yeah,
right?
I think,
so follow up at least once or twice. And if it goes nowhere, then just let it be. There are other people that would give you the time of day. Any more questions?
We do have more questions. I think Femi's done with this question. I'll take
no worries. I still have time. So yeah, let's go.
Yes, I think based on our schedule, we still have about 10 minutes for questions before we wrap things up. So I'll probably throw some quick fire ones at you, Mr. Chico. John had a question in the chat, and it's about transferable skills. He said, how does skill transfer to a job, like across fields, work? So you did your PhD research in something, and you're applying to another field. How should you leverage what you have to apply for skills across industries?
Yeah, you want to focus on what's most relevant for that job, right? So I'm trying to think of an example. So let's say you are, let's do this. Okay, let's say you are a marketing person, and you've been a marketing manager or something, for instance, but you are now looking to apply for a sales job, right? So marketing and sales are quite different. A marketing person mostly focuses on brand building, go-to-market strategies and all that to enable the sales, right? So they actually, help prepare the ground for the sales, right? And create awareness and all of that. So it's quite different, but they enable sales in a way. But you're applying for a sales job now. So what you should be focused on is how your relationship with sales enabled you to learn more about how to sell stuff, right? You could talk about, the different engagements you had, with the sales team and all of that. You can talk about how your work as a marketing person, helped to generate sales for XYZ company and led to, let's say 20% of an increase in sales and etc. Right? So you want to make that connection between what it is you're currently doing and what it is you want to do. So think about what is relevant and what you've done in terms of your background that may make sense for for that role you're going for. There will always be a connection if you look very closely, right? So let's say there's a skill about, communication, right, is one skill that you have, and it's a skill that you've leveraged in the role you have right now. But you're going for another role, and you see in the job description that, okay, they say communication is very critical, or this person should be able to collaborate. So collaboration is what they're looking for, or is part of what they're looking for in that specific employee for that role. So you definitely have collaborated in your previous jobs, haven't you? So you want to use examples, in the work you've done so far that shows your collaboration, right? You could say, I worked with multiple stakeholders, or I worked with, 4 different stakeholders to build, a product, right? And this really led to an increase in market share or an increase in sales, etc. So always, like I said, the JD is your cheat sheet. Always use that as a reference point. And what, helps people to sometimes is have more like an Excel sheet, right? Where you dissect the job description, right? So if they say collaboration, and if they say, let's say relationship building is another skill that they need. So you can put all of that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like list all the different things they need in that job, and then have another column that says achievements. And then think about what achievement do you have that points to collaboration. You write it down. What achievement do you have that points to building relationships? You write it down. So all those achievements you put there that, helps you to better align what you've done with what the company is looking for. And then those achievements should be what you put on your resume.
So John, I hope that answers your question. Never forget your cheat sheet and always find a connection between all of these related experiences that you've said. The next question, Mr. Chico, a question from Joshua. I think it's something you've spoken to before, but I still just want to echo it. about, is it completely irrelevant to include an unrelated achievement to your CV or resume, or is there a way in which that can benefit you and maybe be a marketing strategy, although it's unrelated, can help you in a way, maybe help you stand out with something else that the recruiter might see that they might not have been looking for?
Well, normally you want to ask yourself to say, this information I'm putting on my resume, does it help me in any way? Like, is it going to be relevant? If the question is yes, then you put it there. But if the question is no, why bother? Like, because your you don't have much space. You have 2 or 3 pages maximum. So why do you want to just put something there just to put it there? Like, to me, it's not really necessary if the information you're going to put on the resume doesn't really relate in any way. But for instance, I've seen cases where, okay, let's say you have military experience, right? And you put that on your resume. And the recruiter, for instance, might be somebody who is ex-military. Okay. He or she may say, well, okay, well, this is an ex-military person. Fine, let's interview him or her. Or, I've seen cases where people put like, basketball coach or something, or like, a volleyball coach, just in the other experiences section of the resume, like underneath. And you might be lucky that, the recruiter or hiring manager might be a coach or like basketball or something. That could help you too, right? But, but you have to be very careful and selective about the information that you want to put there.
Well, thanks again for speaking to that. The other question we have, how valuable in your experience, how valuable are you seeing multi-industry experience, cross-industry experience within North America? How valuable would you see that is?
Oh, it's very valuable. Very, very valuable. Like, me, for instance, I've worked in Shell, so oil and gas. I've worked in Amazon, right? So some tech, some retail, some distribution. I've worked in Unilever, and that's manufacturing, right? And I currently work for Rio Tinto, which is a global mining company. That's 4 industries. So if I'm applying for a job in manufacturing, I'm likely to get it, or oil and gas, I'm likely to get it, or whatever, because I've worked in 4 different industries than somebody who has worked mainly in one. So when you present both, typically the person that has more of a diverse experience would typically be seen as a bit more valuable than the person who has stayed in one. That's just the way the US kind of works, because they kind of see that, the more experiences you have, the more exposure to different industries you have, perhaps the more ideas and the more insight you can bring to different problems. So it's more around the problem solving and, ability to bring different or diverse insights that might help. Although, depending on, there are some conservative countries as well, right? That, they don't like the idea of people jumping or people moving from place to place and stuff like that. In the US, it's quite different. In the US, if you really want to grow, sometimes you need to be willing to jump or move. And I say you have to jump strategically. It's not just to jump everywhere, right? You want to make sure that the jump you're making doesn't land you into a ditch, right? But you want to, at least get, experiences from like 1 or 2 types of industry. So you have a bit of like a diverse experience, right? Than just focusing on one for all your life, right? So it does help. It's actually a benefit and not an impediment or a hindrance.
Understood. Yeah, good point. I'm so glad you added that caveat, because I was going to say, what if like they're kind of looking for someone who had a deep experience in one particular field?
Yes. There are things like that, right? Like, for instance, in mining where I work now, right? So it's very specific, right? So, for instance, if we are looking for like a technical manager for aluminium, for instance, we would prefer somebody who has perhaps worked in, on aluminium for like a very long time. Right. So, because it shows that, okay, they know the product, they know exactly what they're talking about when they're, so we would most likely go with that kind of person because of the skill and what is required. But in most jobs where there's flexibility and all of that, like a sales director, right, or like a marketing person or HR person, right, it's a bit more, dynamic in that sense. So companies will be more open to people who have done different things. But there are areas like in healthcare, for instance, that they are very particular about working in the healthcare industry. So if you wanted to break into a healthcare job, they will prefer somebody who has done something in healthcare before, because somehow they consider it more of a delicate type of industry than, you know, than manufacturing, for instance, or tech and things like that.
Good one. Mr. Chico, again, you've indulged us for a long time. I'm just going to take 4 or 5 more minutes and take 2 more questions if we can touch on those. Mr. Victor in the chat did ask, from your experience, having your vast experience across industries, what are some things that you've seen that are typical showstoppers that you've seen on an applicant's resume or CV that stopped you from advancing such an application?
Showstoppers. Okay. Spelling errors, grammatical errors is a showstopper for me, unfortunately. If I can't read the resume, or if I can't like process it, I wouldn't even bother reading the rest of it. Like, I just can't. Like, if it gives me a headache, then I wouldn't even bother. So, you know, it has to be grammatically correct. And it should really, in the first few minutes, tell me exactly who you are and what value you can bring, right? So yeah, so that is, you know, really important. You know, too much information sometimes too, like, it's just like no space, just a bunch of words, just in the resume. It doesn't look, you know, pleasing to the eye. That can also be a turn off as well. What else? Sometimes, not for me though, but I would say large employment gaps sometimes could also be an issue. You know, let's say you've not, you know, you've been out of work for like maybe 5 years or something, or 10 years, and it's like, oh, okay, like what happened, right? You might want to fill that gap, right? Just make sure that you're very clear on what you did, you know, during that time. You know, whatever you did, was it valuable? So you want to put something there to make it clear why there was a gap, or what happened there. And also, you know, lies too, right? Can also be an issue too, right? If you lie about what you did and all of that, that too could come back to bite you as well. So yeah, those could be a couple of things, but you just make sure that you proofread, check for errors in the resume, right? And just making sure that, you know, whatever you're saying that is grammatically correct and it's clear and concise. You don't want to put big words, boss, like, you don't want to put, like, you know, too many big words and everything. People should be able to understand what they're reading for them to, you know, to understand your experience and hopefully call you for the interview.
Right. I'm glad you touched on things as regards structure, exaggeration, and then the content as well. That's encompassing. Now we have one final question for you before I let you go. And it's as regards, you talked on elevator pitch. I think someone even tried something as regards getting someone to connect with them and saying a bit about themselves. Do you have an advice for a structure for what you could do? How long is too long? How short is too short for an elevator pitch? And what should you probably say as by way of structure? Do you have any tips that has worked in the past that you would recommend?
Yes. I think that's a very good question, because I have exactly what you need. Because I had to come up with this a couple of years ago, because my clients kept asking me, so, you know, what do I say? How do I say? You know, like, what's important? So look, you want to use this formula or format. It's called the who, what, why. Who, what, why. Who am I as a professional? What value do I bring? And why am I applying for the role, or why am I looking for a new job? Who, what, and why. If you can answer these 3 questions, you are most likely going to have a very good, concise elevator pitch. So who are you as a professional? It could be, you know, the fact that you are a mechanical engineer with 10 years of experience in XYZ. That could be the beginning, right? What? It could be, you know, I work or I collaborate with companies, or I help manage projects in a way that we finish on time and within budget. It could be I make sure that I build the right structures, or I troubleshoot in a way that I help the company to avoid losses and all that kind of stuff, right? You know what value you bring. So you can just identify 2 or 3 things that you do really, really well, and let that be the what in terms of the value you bring. And then the why is always, why am I looking for a new role, right? Why did I apply to this job? So normally the default answer is always, and most likely would be, safer. Just say, I'm looking for greater development, right? You could say, where I am, I've been able to do X, Y, Z. I've done a really good job there. People know me, recognize me, so it's really been good where I am. It's really been great. I've had a great time. I've learned so much about the oil and gas industry, but I want to do something a bit different, right? I want to really leverage my skills and abilities now to work in the tech space, right? And your company sounds like, it's really very innovative in that space. You've done X, Y, Z. So that's why I'm really interested in your company, because I want to be part of that. It's just an example, right? But you want to be able to kind of use that. And if you're able to answer the who, what, why, it will also help you answer the question of, tell me about yourself. So you can, go and just really think about the answers to those 3 questions, write them down, and then see how you can summarize them in 4 to 5 sentences, and keep practicing it to the point where it just rolls off your mouth whenever you have to answer, tell me about yourself, or when you have to do an intro to somebody as well.
Wow. To everyone of us, we have work to go do, to prepare, to practice as well, and then to answer those questions and leveraging them for better networking tips, and also to stand out as regards your resume. I cannot thank you enough. It's been a value added more than an hour of session. I'm more than happy to bring back Dr. Olade now to close us out. Thank you so much for such a call.
You're very welcome. Thank you too.
Thank you so much. It's been a very well spent 1.5 hours, and I guess it's the same for everyone on the call today. To Ms. Ochuko, can you confirm you can hear me, Mayoko?
Oh, yes.
Yes, loud and clear, yes, sir.
All right. To Ms. Ochuko, we'd like to say a very big thank you to you for doing this for us. We know, it took you out of your schedule for today and then preparing for this. On behalf of the iScholar Initiative and the Young Professional Career Advancement Team, I would like to say a very big thank you to you for doing this for us today. And to every participant, thank you for joining. The recording will be available after this meeting on all our platforms. So if you like to share with your friends and colleagues, that will also be available. It will be possible for you to do that after the meeting. And I would like to ask Ms. Ochuko if you can send us a copy of that resume that you shared.
Yes.
Thank you. And just to round up, I schooled in England, right? I worked in Europe, I worked in Nigeria. Then it was time for me to transition to the US. So I took my CV that I used in Nigeria and the UK, I took it to the US, and it was there I found out that I was just deceiving myself. I applied for several jobs and no interviews until I actually consulted a professional, and who told me that CVs or resumes in North America is different from anywhere in the world. Everything in America is different from every other part of the world. So that's why attending this program is very crucial for all our students, our scholars, and I believe that we have all learned one thing or the other from the program. So Ms. Ochuko, making available that copy of the resume, which I believe is ATS compliant, for us to actually adopt while writing our resumes and applying for those jobs. Again, thank you very much. And to everyone, have a good night. Our next webinar will be coming up in the next quarter. Look forward to it, and we hope to see all of you there again. Ms. Ochuko, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and look forward to staying connected.
I dropped the details of that